You ever spend hours or months trying to create something? You have an idea or a vision of how it should work or look, and then when you finally get it, you manifest it never quite works how you had in mind. Well, I'm going to tell you guys about a story today where this exact situation happened to me. And in short, designing for agents was the key to the solution all along. I think the best place to start and how I got to the solution is with Moltbook. Now, Moltbook is by any objective measure insane. It's a social network for AI agents that Meta recently acquired. And if you spend any amount of time on the platform, it'll hurt your head. And so this is my agent, krystaballz, and its Moltbook page. And I mean, I'm not even going to waste your time by reading some of these comments because it's all just insane. And when I say comments, I mean posts that my agent made and some of the responses to it. But suffice to say, in this story arc, my first inkling at a solution started with Moltbook. And really, it's this page right here. So this is the first time I'd ever seen a website design like this or a web app design like this. You say whether you're human or an agent. And if you're an agent, it just reads a skill.md, which will tell the agent how exactly it should interface with Moltbook. And so when I first used Moltbook and I saw this kind of instruction, it kind of got my head spinning. And so here's my product, krystaballz. I'll put in the playlist some of the videos I've created surrounding it. But you might notice something a bit similar between the login page or the home page for the product. Now I'm going to put the I'm an agent page. I'm going to wait to click on this. Instead, let's look at the human page. So like I said, I'll have a playlist with all the videos surrounding this product. But suffice to say, KBZ was designed to basically provide advice or consulting to somebody curious about what's going on in the world of funding. Now, you might ask real quick, why would you care about who's being funded? I mean, there's a few reasons. Maybe you want to invest. Maybe you're just curious on the state of innovation. At the time when I designed and created this, I was looking for work. And the best place to look for work is at companies that have recently been funded. If a company's been funded, the first thing they're going to do is hire. And so let's just do a couple queries. So who was funded recently? You make this query to KBZ. It's going to ask you to clarify the time range. You click last 3 days, and then it's going to retrieve all the funding announcements over the past 3 days. Just real quick as an aside, every night a cron goes off, scrapes the internet for funding announcements, and then writes them to a database that allows you to ask questions on top of it. Okay, so great. We have a list. We can click on the companies, and we can see a little bit of information, in this case about Tolino. But what you'll soon find out is that everything is going to be limited to the agentic workflows that I programmed. And again, there's a video called Who Got Funded in my playlist. You can see some information about these different agentic workflows that are present. Anything compounded, for example, tell me or draw a graph of all the companies that were funded that do AI in the last 3 months. Any kind of question that would require compound or consecutive actions are off limits, which brings me to the aha moment. If instead of doing a human setup and then managing the would-be agentic loop, if instead you just connect your agent to krystaballz, check out what's possible. All right, so let's just do a warm-up. What companies were funded in February 2026? And you'll see after you connect the tool to KBZ or any tool you could create, you can see in her call stack that she's using the tool. In this case, you can see it called here. And so the query is what companies were funded in February 2026. Just to get warmed up, there we go. 50 companies. We get a nice, robust list. We get it separated by mid-size rounds. And you can see, even as she was preparing that answer, she was using other tools. And we have this, what's called an agentic loop, which I covered in my last video about openclaw. In this case, it's called PyMono. And just instead of managing the entire process, building in different agentic workflows, if we just give her a couple that we care about, all sorts of stuff are possible. All right, my next query, I'm going to do create a pie chart of all companies funded in March 2026, separate them by non-AI to AI. Now, this is where the light bulb becomes evident. She's going to use my tool, but she has access to all sorts of tools. And when these tools are put together, funding search, write, a nice piece of copy here, we get, voila, a full graph, full pie chart. something that would be impossible or very difficult to do if I was left to having to code each agentic workflow or each tool. Let me get to the query that was driving me nuts. So what investors would be interested in my new agentic workflow for funding data? This is the type of question that I would want this tool or this product, KBZ, to be able to answer. Basically, because it has access to funding data and who are the investors for those various products, it should be able to recommend a set of investors who might be interested. And lo and behold, we don't get it. We don't get an answer because I never coded out the advice workflow. And you can see if you're having to manage the entire process, I have to actually parse the intent out before I could actually build out the workflow entirely. So in this case, there is no advice. However, we could take that same query and let's see what happens now. So she's going to use my tool again, but we'll see how she's able to navigate around that question. All the tool does that I've provided, here we go. She's already answering. And because the agentic workflow that I provide to KBZ has access to the investor list for every company that's funded, it's done in real time. I'm able to get a sophisticated piece of intelligence rooted in actual data. Let's just look at the first one. Sequoia Capital would be a perfect fit. Most active in AI agents and enterprise data. And then they'll show you the agents or workflows that they've invested in. And so in short order, that ultimate goal I had from the beginning, to get a list of investors who would be interested in my product, given that they've been interested in similar products, the answer was in plain sight. I just couldn't quite put all the pieces together. And that's why designing for agents might be the key to a lot of problems you're interested in. With that said, guys, thank you so much for your time. Please give me a like, give me a sub. I also stream on Twitch, so go ahead and give me a follow there if you don't mind, and I'll see you homies soon. Peace.